So you're moving to Iowa, but you really want to know the pros and cons of actually living here? Well, luckily for you, that's this video, and we're gonna go over the stuff that they won't tell you anywhere else. Now, I always like to start out on a positive note, so we're gonna start with our first pro. And it can be a con to some people, but to me, it's a pro, and for the people that move here and tell me about it, it's definitely a pro. So what am I talking about specifically? Well, I am talking about the amount of people that live here in Iowa. We're sitting at about 3 million people over the entire state, which is a fairly large state when you look at it, and that means that the population density is fairly low. So what are the benefits of having low population density? Well, you don't have to be right on top of your neighbor like in a big city. You have your own space, it's less congested. It's just a lot of great things that can happen from low population density that many people don't even really think about, but it is a benefit for a lot of people that decide to move here because they're trying to get out of those congested cities where the traffic waits are so long, you're elbow to elbow. People seem to be rude all the time because you're just up in each other's businesses all the time. And that's not what you get here in Iowa. So it may be a huge benefit for you if that's what you're looking for, because Iowa definitely has it. Now let's talk a little bit about the cons. We're gonna mix it up here. We're not gonna cover all the pros and all the cons separately. No, we're gonna put them together and you really don't know what's coming next. So our first con on this list is actually property taxes. Now it's an interesting concept to talk about because where I am located here in Bettendorf in the Quad Cities, we have the Illinois side and we have the Iowa side. And the number one reason I hear clients moving across the river from Illinois is because of the high property taxes that are in Illinois. Now the reason I find this somewhat humorous, because if you look at Iowa as a national average, we're actually sitting at one of the higher property taxes. But in comparison to Illinois, we're a little bit lower than them, so people want to get over here for that reason. But if you're not coming from a state like Illinois, you may be surprised at what our property taxes are here. I think we're sitting in the bottom 10 as far as the property taxes go. And the thing you gotta think about when you're moving here and it comes to property taxes is that it can lower the amount that you can actually buy, because the property taxes have to be factored into your monthly payment if you're getting a mortgage. So something to keep in mind. But Iowa's property taxes are a little bit on the higher side. Now, while we're on the topic of cons, the next one I never really realized was a con until I started reading comments from people that live here on this channel and from people that have moved here and told me about it. Because I've grown up here, I never really put too much thought into it, and that is our farming culture, specifically around monoculture and the use of herbicides and pesticides. Yes, Iowa is known for its farming, and it's amazing to have that. But people looking in from the outside or moved here were thinking it's going to be all organic, and it's really not. You know, we have monoculture, which means one type of crop over acres and acres and acres of fields. Usually it's either soybeans or the major one is corn. And you just see fields and fields and fields of this. And on top of it, they want to make sure that it's weed-free and pest-free. So what are they gonna do? Spray herbicides and pesticides. It's not gonna be organic, which in some cases is an okay thing. A lot of the corn that is used is actually used for ethanol. And at that point, I mean, it's not really affecting our health per se. Now, caveat, not a health expert when it comes to that, but it's not something that we are consuming. So yes, it can be definitely a downside if you're looking for organic. We still have it here, but the majority of farming that goes on in Iowa is gonna be monoculture with the use of herbicides and pesticides. So just be prepared for that. If you're moving here and you're thinking it's gonna be an organic farm just about everywhere you go, that is simply just not the case. All right, so I've had enough of the cons. Let's go on and move back to some of the pros. And it actually has something to do with our first pro, which is the people. But this one specifically is talking about traffic in Iowa. Now, traffic in Iowa isn't non-existent, but it's pretty dang close. And it really goes back to the amount of people that live here. We don't have a ton of traffic jams, and even if we do, it seems that they're short-lived. Now, I will say, Des Moines, for some reason, every time I go through there, it always seems to hit me a traffic jam or something happens along those interstates. But again, it clears up pretty quickly. Now, if you can include traffic jams due to tractors, well, okay, we might have a few of those. But generally speaking, our traffic is very easygoing. You don't have a lot of congestion and backup. Now, I can attest to the traffic in the Iowa area being much better than other areas, because where I live in the Quad Cities, we're not too far from Chicago, and every now and then my fiance wants to take a trip up there, and guess who gets to drive? I get to drive. And when we're up there, I cannot stand the traffic in Chicago, especially when we go into downtown. It's just car after car, gotta know where you're going, people are driving crazy, and it's just not that way in Iowa. So every time I get back to the state of Iowa, I am pretty happy and a lot less stressed because I don't have to deal with that traffic every day. And honestly, I don't know who can deal with that traffic every single day. It's just kind of crazy to me to think about. But hey, a lot of people do. But people like you that are moving to Iowa, you may not have to deal with it anymore. Now, no matter where you decide to settle, the traffic is going to be fairly similar. But the thing is you want to make sure that you're moving to the correct area in Iowa. And luckily for you, I've lived all over the state, so I know almost every nook and cranny. And if you're moving here, I would love to help you out. My number is popping up down below. I am a licensed realtor here in the state of Iowa. And even if I can't help you, I know somebody around the state that can. So give me a call, send me a text. I would love to help you out. All right, let's move on to our next pro, and it comes back to the people again. You may start to see a theme here that the people is a big factor when it comes to Iowa, but what specifically this time? Well, there is a saying here in Iowa that the people are Iowa nice. Now, this doesn't apply to every single person, but it applies to our culture in general, because people in Iowa are fairly nice and polite most of the time. And I can speak to this because I actually just did a video where I went and interviewed locals of the Quad Cities, which is where I'm located. And I asked them, what is your favorite part about living in the Quad Cities and in Iowa specifically? And it almost always came back to the people, how nice they are, and just how wonderful they are to be around. I'll show you a couple of those clips right here. And what would you say the most positive thing about the Quad Cities or Bettendorf itself?
Oh, it's the community for sure.
What did you think about the people when you moved here?
Oh, the people are great. They are welcoming and they want to know about my culture.
Yeah.
So they are good people here. Great
Very
people,
good.
yeah, in the Quad City.
People, they're very, I would say, hospitality. They're very warm.
Yeah.
They give you welcome. They buy, they don't buy. They
Yeah.
love the people.
That's good.
Very nice
That's good.
people,
That's
and we
awesome.
love them. Yeah.
So there it goes to prove that yes, it's not just my opinion, but other people's opinion that actually live here that think the people are nice. So that goes to say a long ways towards the pro of the culture here, that people are going to treat you with respect and they're going to treat you with some dignity too, which is sometimes lacking in other places. All right, so we've touched on the pros for the last few. Let's hit one of the cons. And one of the cons actually affects me personally, and that comes to pollen and seasonal allergies. Now, we definitely get allergy season, mostly in the spring for most people, but me personally, it's the fall time that gets me. Don't know why. I got a theory, because we have all this farm ground around, everybody's cutting down the corn, spewing up the corn dust, corn, whatever, the pollen, what's in the field, and that's usually when I get allergies, absolutely terrible. But for my fiance, it's actually the opposite. She's a spring allergy girl, and she never had allergies before she moved to Iowa, so she developed them while she was here, and she cannot stand it. Her best friend is Flonase because she's never had it before, and it works very well. But things like Flonase, Claritin, Benadryl, they're all great options if you have allergies, or if you're like my fiance and develop allergies when you move here. Just be prepared to get any of those antihistamines because you're gonna feel pretty terrible. For me, in the fall, my eyes spill almost shut. I can't hardly breathe. It's just not a great time. So be ready for that, because in my mind, we really have two different seasonal allergy sessions throughout the year. All right into our next con, and our next con is actually something that's been affecting us as of recently. And if you're watching this video into the future, well, this is 2024, so you can go back and take a look. But it is tornadoes and flooding. Just this spring, we have had the most tornadoes of any state in the union, and we've seen the devastation that has occurred. We had the one over in Greenfield, which I think was the largest and fastest on record. Don't quote me on that, but it was a big one. And then we've had a bunch of other ones, some of them affecting my own family. So it's been pretty devastating. And if you're moving here, you gotta be aware of tornado safety. Now, is it every day that we have them? Absolutely not. In fact, I've been here 30 years and I've never physically seen one myself. So it just goes to show, it's not an everyday occurrence, but it does happen, and they are significant when they do happen. So just know going in that you're gonna have to be aware of what tornadoes are, what to look for, what's a tornado warning versus a tornado watch. By the way, tornado warnings are worse, just let you know. So that is one factor to consider. And the other one, which is happening as we speak, is our flooding that's going on. It is a weird year when it comes to flooding. Many of our cities seem to be underwater for whatever reason. The Mississippi is going up as I speak. So Davenport and Bettendorf are preparing for floodwaters right now, and it's just something that's happening. Now, does it happen every year? No. I had a gentleman ask me, hey, is this normal? He was from California, and I said, no, it's not normal for it to happen at this time of year or at these levels. These are really high levels going on into this year. So yes, expect that. And if you're moving here, don't try to buy in a floodplain as best as possible, unless you just really want to be next to a river, because it's going to be expensive for flood insurance. And if you get flooded, it's expensive to have to take care of that. But again, I'm not knocking it. If you want to live next to the river, go for it. I think it's a really fun place to have, because you do have the recreational aspects of it. But if it floods, just be ready for the downsides of that. Now, I help a ton of people move to the state of Iowa, and one thing that people almost always tell me is they love how clean it is. Not only the air, but the cities and the trash all around are fairly cleaned up. Now, that doesn't go to say everywhere is 100% clean. Just the other day, I was going to the gym, and the front of my gym just had a whole bunch of trash, but by the next day it was cleaned up. So people try to take pride in their communities here, and you see that as an effect. And then the air quality is just really pretty amazing most of the time, unless there's allergies going on or you're near some kind of factory or something like that. But generally speaking, Iowa has pretty clean air, and people really like that because it just makes living a lot easier and a lot better in most people's eyes. Now, this next con is kind of a matter of perspective, and a perspective of living in a large city versus coming to live in a small town or an Iowa city, and that comes to the social aspects. Iowa is not known for its large cities. I mean, Des Moines is our largest metro area, sitting at about 800,000 the last I checked, and that really isn't that big of a city when you look at the large cities of the United States. And because of that, people that move here sometimes feel that there's not a lot to do. And when you're comparing it to a large city, I could see why you're taking that perspective. But if you're coming from a small town, our large cities are pretty active. Right here in the Quad Cities where I'm located, all I say is if you're looking for it, you can find something to do. Where I'm at right now is Phase Park, and they are getting ready for the concert series that is happening today and this summer. So it's cool to see that, and if I was looking for it, I could find it and really enjoy a free concert. So that's the same thing with the state of Iowa. Typically, if you're looking for something to do, you can find it. I will say in the smaller towns, I grew up in a small town myself, it's a little bit more difficult, but again, if you're really trying to find something to do, it can be found. Now in Iowa, something that is pretty amazing is that our healthcare system is pretty amazing. If you look it up, I believe we were ranked #1 for healthcare, which is an amazing stat to have. And it really comes down to the hospitals we have and the amount of hospitals. I mean, we have Mercy One, we have Unity Point, we have Genesis, which is where I go. Unity Point and Mercy One, my fiance has worked at both of those, and she always says great things about them. But the biggest one and the most known in the state of Iowa is the Iowa University Hospital System, which is in Iowa City. And it is well known. People travel from all over to get surgeries and get different things done. I just had to take a good friend of mine to the Iowa City area to get some eye surgery done, and he was in and out of there, really no hassle. I did have to drive him home, that's why I had to take him, because he couldn't see, but that's just a part of the surgery. They did a phenomenal job, and now he doesn't have any problems seeing. So it's just a really great hospital system, but it's not our only one. Like I said, we have those other ones that are around the state, and they all have great reviews for the most part on their experiences with clients. So if you're moving here and hospitals and healthcare are important to you, well, we got you covered. Now, if you've watched this video and you're like, yep, I am still moving to the state of Iowa, and you really don't know where, well, that's where I can come in and help. My number is popping up down below. I'd love to be your realtor when moving here and help you figure out which community is the best community for you. So give me a call, send me a text. I am the one that answers all those phone calls, emails, and text messages. But if you just want to see what the state of Iowa looks like, well, check out this Iowa vlog right here.